Hey, what's happening, everybody?
Everyone.
Welcome to Union Stories. It's September 24th. We're working our way through the album.
Where does time go?
It just goes.
It does.
It just
Let me
goes.
tell you, it just does.
And now we're looking into fall, and we're also getting ready to look at the next song, which is...
What is it?
What track are we on, everyone?
Is it Accident? Is that
It
right?
It is Accident.
It's more than that, though, isn't it?
It is Here Comes Another
It is.
Accident.
Okay, I
but-
got part of it. I get partial credit, right?
You get
You
if you get a word right, if Doug gets a word right in the actual song title, he gets full credit. I'll give you full
Yay.
credit for that.
All right.
Shorthand, we
Wait for Doug.
refer to it as Accident anyway, and it's one of those that, as we mentioned in previous installments of Union Stories, our band sort of has a history where we originally got together to start writing and weren't calling it Storytellers Union, and then there was when we named it a band and decided to start working on music for a project. There's a handful of songs that almost fall into that gap between, and this is one of those songs. They're the songs that we have talked a little bit about that were kicked around forever.
Yeah.
Close the window, or Old Denim Jacket, as it's called. Kids on the Same Ride. Those songs we played and played and played. And then there's like 3 or 4 songs that Doug and I did right at the very end that got lost in the mix because it was literally at the end, right before that gap period we had. And because of that, they kind of got forgotten. When we picked it back up, the 3 of us, and decided to start revisiting songs, we all started throwing out the ones we had played and played and played, and tucked away on digital hard drive here at Doug's was a few of those songs that you'd done with loops originally. Is that correct?
Some of it was the original key part I did with loops, because I always wanted to create. I really love Stevie Wonder's Superstitious, and I really loved Stevie Ray Vaughan's version of Stevie Wonder's Superstitious, and so I was kind of inspired by that but I'm not the player that any of the players on any of those versions of it are, so I went with the poor man's studio band, which is loops to try and construct something just to get the idea down and start kind of developing from there.
And I think that's part of the reason that this song might have almost got forgotten and fell in the cracks, because when we got together again, we did so as a Wednesday night music club.
Yes.
Let's call it a band now. Let's get together. Let's revisit some of this old material and start playing. These were songs that were never really played so much as they were created.
True.
And I think that's how it almost got lost. This and Going to See the Trees, I think, was another one of the ones that ended up getting resurrected.
That's right, because it was another loop-based thing to begin with, just to try and get the idea down to. That's true.
So how do we end up bridging that gap? I know, like for the first album, they weren't even considered because, again, they were just looked at as they're not doable. We can't sit and play them. But by album 2, something had changed.
Tune tracks is what happened. I went from Apple loops to actual tune tracks, where I could start using much better drums and writing with good drum parts, and using easy drums and using easy keys to create keys parts. So and that's where all of our drums and keys come from. This now is going to sound like a sponsored ad, but it's not. but
If they would want to sponsor,
absolutely, we are totally open to that. Tune tracks, go check them out. You need a keyboard player, you need a drummer. They got you covered. They will help fill in those gaps, and it's not loops. It's MIDI. But I'm getting off subject here.
Hey,
I will digress. But Tune Tracks is really what changed, because it gave it more of like a real feel, because suddenly there was somebody playing instead of, and again, in some loops they're playing, but a more natural feel, a more band feel. I could construct the songs I always wanted to construct around my bass and guitar parts, throwing in those really great keys, throwing in the funky drums.
So that really put back on the table some things when you came to Jerry and I and said, when we started looking for album 2, it's like, okay, what haven't we done yet in our catalog? And once again, those songs that we liked, a few of those got rediscovered. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
And this was one of those. And from the get-go, when I heard the new version that Doug was able to create from the version we'd originally done in the early 2000s, I heard the Superstitious thing, which I loved, because it's that funky funkiness there.
It's what I always wanted, but never could really pull off, because it sounded like a very cheesy guy sitting in his basement trying to create Superstitious to some loops, which is exactly what it was. Hopefully that a nod to Superstitious, both Stevie Wonder and Stevie Ray Vaughan, comes across in the finished product and what it eventually became. But even though it started out that way, it was just super cheesy and honestly bad. I mean, it really was. The idea was there, but in that infant stage, I'm glad there was no demo-itis on that one. Where we're like, yeah, okay, this is it. This is the demo. We don't need to change anything. Yeah, everything needed to be changed about that one.
It did get the sound of it did evolve quite a bit over time, but I think it speaks well that it's not. Doesn't come across as a rip of Superstitious or anything, because it comes out, and I never heard one person that commented on things reference Superstitious. I had somebody actually say that it reminded them of the Who. We had listeners say that the keyboards and stuff. And
okay.
Hear it now?
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you can go that way.
Sometimes
totally,
it's and I'm fine for that comparison too.
Yeah.
So it is a fun rock song, and it's a lot of fun to sing. As far as that goes, Jerry and I, we laid down our vocals. There was 2 songs on the most recent album that we attempted to do in the style of the first album. And by the style, I mean not the musical style, I mean in the way that we recorded the first album. If you watch the documentary, originally we started recording this album the same way, and all 3 in a room, we'll get together, have recording sessions. Search Engine Fire was the other song that we did on that very first get-together. Mm-hmm. The vocals for that song didn't survive, but I think that this is probably the only song. I don't think your backing vocals survived. I think you redid those. But the original lead vocal, I think, is the only thing that survived from that first session. Is that about what
that sounds right?
Everybody remembers it too. Lyrically, this song it's fairly specific. Obviously, there's a lot of religious imagery in the song, and I know that gets attention, and I've been asked about it a time or two. So I will just say, when I wrote this song originally in the early 2000s, I was around the time when there was renewed interest in some of the church scandals of that time, where some of the things from the 70s and 80s was coming back to light. So the narrator in this song is a child, and the religious imagery, the idea of confession, all that is in there to speak about the evils of men and what they can do to corrupt institutions and childhoods, and how they use that the power that they have over some to use that as a shield to protect them from being discovered, from being found out, to cause shame. Not only taking the child's innocence, they're ruining that relationship that person might have with their religion. It's the institutions. It's not the religion that is the critique in this. It's a particular sect of people that would use their position of power, as it were, to to subvert the intent of the whole institution and to prey on the weaklings. And where it's coming from the point of a child, that's where the idea of confession plays 2 ways. The idea that the kid does not want to talk about it because they are made to be feel ashamed, and if you use that against the child as well, you're less likely to have someone that is going to go tell on you. If you use those, the idea of shame, or that it's somebody's will, or that if you ever tell anyone, this is going to happen, and that's the way, unfortunately, that a lot of very bad people were able to get away with very bad things. So, if you folks were wondering about the religious imagery and where some of that was going, that is really specifically directed at at that situation. So again, it's lyrically it's pretty heavy, so it seems strange to say it's a fun song to sing, but I mean, where it is a rock song, it is a cathartic song to sing. It's one that we would play often in the basement. I know your backing vocals on it are you belt those out. So
I didn't to begin with, because when we first started recording and going in the direction of, because at first I think my backing vocals on this song to begin with was pretty straightforward. Like I was just kind of repeating some of your lines and things like that, and then it started moving into adding the nose and things like that. And so when we first started, we were recording in your basement, and a lot of times Mary Beth was upstairs asleep, or I think she might have been pregnant with Liam at the time, or
It's been a while, so from
Yeah.
if not pregnant at the time, then Liam was here. So
Yeah, and so it was like we'd be down here, and in my head, I'm going, no, but and there's some video of me even down here, I think,
basically whispering no.
basically going,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, I think
then,
it's about the volume you were
yeah,
singing down
yeah,
here.
and then when we would
That's
do
true,
it,
because that's in the documentary, and you
yeah,
compare that.
you can definitely see
That's why the
that
backing vocals
I'm
were
over here
redone,
with
but the
my-
original vocals were still there.
And then, so when I was able to lay it down with the new recording style and do some in our basement and some over here and some, some different basements, then I was able to play with it more and belt it out as I wanted to. And then we were playing it live down in the basement
And it does rock.
practicing like
it
that.
rocks
Yeah,
down
it's a
in,
great
in
song.
the basement. It was a good, again,
I do
know
some
it seems-
funky dancing in the documentary. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Doug does, I think, a little bit. Doug,
He moves.
He moves.
He occasionally
Doug.
did.
When there's a guitar struck to me, yeah, occasionally
Yeah.
I do this.
But that's here comes another accident, and so go stream it now.
Go
If you
stream
did- If you didn't listen to it when we posted it last night, go stream it now, and join us next week when we move ahead one more track as we
Wait.
work our way through the album.
I have one thing to point out. Because one thing was, it's not an accident.
Boom.
I see what
Happy
you did.
anniversary.
Huh? What is today?
September 24th.
You guys just had an anniversary.
We will have
3 days.
27.
I thought it was the 23rd.
So 27.
Can you
Oh,
edit- can
I
you
was
edit
actually
this
part of the
out now?
wedding. I was actually part of the wedding. Was it the
Way to
27th?
way to ruin the illusion that this was live.
You can edit this.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna edit this.
You're gonna edit.
Edit this part
So,
out. But
Doug.
in case he forgets, goodbye,
Happy
everybody. See you next
anniversary.
week.
And that's how we end the video.